So we'll start our presentation on Hub 2.0. So this is a recent upgrade version that came out. We had Hub 1.0, now we've got Hub 2.0. So I'm going to talk about what Hub is in this PowerPoint, and then we're going to take a look at the software live. So starting out within this PowerPoint, what is Onyx Hub? Okay, so Onyx Hub is going to be a real-time production data gatherer of information, okay? So it's going to be tracking information, pulling information in live to our jobs as we're ripping and printing, and there's a lot of information that Hub is going to gather and report on. So as you see our definition, Hub is a business intelligence tool that takes a unique approach to bringing real production data into a print shop. And it is using real time. There's also historic data, trending and cost data that's going to be in a browser-based reporting dashboard. And you're able to access this information, of course, within your network. Hub is bringing this business and production information together. So a lot of companies out there want to understand where their costs are. So in some cases, where is our ink usage? Are we having good efficiencies of media usage on our media platform? Where's our waste on our media? What percentage of specific material are we printing? So what's our percentage of banner material or canvas or die sub? And all this information can be gathered through Hub and generated in reports, and we can always look back to job information on this. So our dynamic reporting is actually, we can see our live information, what's going on live within our jobs, what's happening live within our shop, and what's ripping and printing, and what's going on live across our stations, across our printers. We can see historic information, so past information, and you can search, based on a field, give me the last 7 days or what have you. You can reference that information. And from this, you can gather trending data. And this is a big deal because maybe in the very beginning, a shop incorporates using Hub, and they quickly start to learn, gee, we're having a lot of reprints. Why are we having all these reprints? And now from there, we can learn some best practices. Maybe we're not cleaning the foam board down or the media down if it's a flatbed printer, for example, and we're getting a fingerprint or something to that effect. Or if there's something else about a certain media or printer combination or maintenances. But these things can lend us to learn about how we can be better efficient, more efficient in our shop, and can make improvements. And over time, the trending data, we can start to see a reduction of that media waste or reprints and so on and so forth, because we're going to learn from this and start developing new best practices. So the information within Hub is going to be pulling this information, ink usage, media waste. We can add in there a machine cost or labor rates and job costs and track this information as well. Okay. So Hub data enables better business decisions. So again, over time, we're learning from this Hub data reporting system, we're learning where we have some areas of improvement or where we're actually benefiting and maybe having good gains and good costs of information as well. And that's going to help us make better business decisions, which in turn is going to impact overall within the shop. Okay, so why does it matter? And we've kind of been talking about some of these things. But again, print data helps print shops understand costs. In some cases, we might be having those questions about why are we having reprints, or where's our media waste or printer utilization, where's our bottlenecks within our production. So all this information could be gleaned and understood from our Hub reporting systems. Bringing our business and production together. So because we're working in production, we're ripping, we're printing files, we're having finishing taking place, we're doing all these different processes and steps in production. From an aspect of business, the front-end marketing, what are we putting our pricing to for our costs, our ink information, we can now gather this data as a tangible from Hub, it's giving us the reports that we need to bring these two components together to bridge the gap between the front-end business dynamic to the production back-end and learn and understand better what's going on. And from Hub, we're going to be gathering this information and reports. Okay, so what are our new features in 2.0? So for some of you out there, you may have been working with the 1.0 version, and this will be something new for you to see within 2.0. So our improvements we've made, next generation business intelligence for print. Okay, so the rich data found in Onyx Hub is unique to Onyx. It's a first-to-market tool designed to improve business decisions with actual print production data. So now with 2.0, we're introducing data protection with secure encryption. So this information is something new that's going on with 2.0. So we're able to have secure server encryption information, better way of managing our job submission from one central location, and we're with a completely new interface, we're optimizing any desktop, tablet, or mobile device and a web browser. So as the slide illustrates, we're able to gather this information across our platforms through more of a secure situation. Protecting our customers and print production data. So again, keeping this information secure, using our HTTPS secure browsing methods, logging in, and again, this information is going to give our users that we log in, we're going to be able to grab this relevant data at that live print level of information in a secure way. So some people want to be able to access this from shop to shop globally. Maybe it's not just everything in one location. You have a sister plant, sister company that you're working with across town or maybe in a totally different state. This information allows us to access that and work with this in a global sense. All right, so we also have some improvements with our job submittal. So job submittals from one central location to any printer, reducing any manual errors by submitting jobs directly into the Thrive workflow. We're able to track this in real time. And some of these features are part of Hub in general, but then we did make some improvements within the interface of job submittal from our Hub station. And again, new user experience, introducing this update to the dashboards of our information, getting real-time information across our different platforms of information, whether it's a tablet or another computer that's on referencing this information, or through a cell phone type device and grabbing this from these different dashboards, we're able to access this information. Okay, so how do we get Onyx Hub 2.0? So Onyx Hub is going to be a part product of our Thrive RIP product, and along with the Onyx Advantage Gold agreement. So this information is pretty specific. We've got to be working with a Thrive product, and we've got to be using the Onyx Advantage Gold system. And you can see in the little illustration, we offer an Advantage plan for silver, we offer one for gold, and in the gold plan, this is where we have this information. So the data also is something that you can download Hub for a 30-day trial. So if you're interested, you know, go to our website, download the Hub trial. There's a trial page. Let me go back into our web page here one second. If I go into my web page here, if we go to downloads, you do have a category for trial versions, and you can download Hub as a trial for 30 days, and that gives you the full dynamic component of the software. Remember, with this, it has to be, we have to be working with Thrive product in order to have that, you know, for the trial to work. All right, just get this to come up here. So if I go to my trial side for downloads, okay, and now you can see on the left side we've got our trials, and you can download this Hub component right here. So just to say this is something that's possible, you're able to work with this. information. Let me go back into that. So you can always go to our website, log into your MyOnyx account, go into the downloads, and then download a 30-day free trial of this. And at any time, if you need help with any of our trial softwares that you would be downloading, at any time you can go ahead and contact Onyx Support. And Onyx Support will help you go through and get installed and configured and so forth. So that's something that you can also take advantage of if you need to. Okay, so that's kind of the overview within our presentation for what Hub is about and how you get Hub. Now, if I take a look at the next PDF that I shared out for you guys, the installation guide. The installation guide is fairly simple. You know, when we go through this, it's going to be one of those wizards you're going to go through and install. So I have this out for you guys as reference, and you're just going through installing this information. When you do this installation, it's going to ask you to, eventually when you launch, it's going to ask you to put in a password for the admin. And you will be adding in, or your administrator is probably going to be doing this at your shop, installing the software, I would imagine. So they'll be creating an admin password for the admin login for Hub. So that's going to be something that's going to take place. And when we look at this controller, the controller part is actually where we go through and we do the installation. In some cases, you may experience your firewall blocking the information, so you can make an exception. And again, this may very well be what your IT admin person is doing for you when they install, but they can make an exception to allow for Hub through this part of the software. Okay. Now, once we have that installation take place, from this Hub controller component, this is where we would launch Hub. So if we look at this portion of it, you can see we would be launching our Hub component software. Now, this is just the controller, but when we launch Hub, this is going to put us into our browser-based interface to show us the data. Now, at this point, I'm going to go into that part of the software. So let me just, actually, let me show you the controller. Here's my little controller. I'm going to open this up. You can stop and start services if you needed to do something as a refresh, or launch the Hub software from here. So let me go into the Hub software, which is in my browser. And when we first go into the Launch Hub and we open this up in our browser, the first thing we're going to see is our home page. And within our home page, this is going to show you your daily statistics, okay? So this always brings you up current to today, wherever we are, our daily statistic of where we are. And we get a general information of prints completed, our total number, and our average. We also can see overall within the shop our prints that have failed, so the total and our average, and then our monthly projected amount. So what have we been doing on a monthly basis? We can see this as information, plotting, trending, or if we turn this from our graph, we can go to a little bar information to see this data as well. So you've got two different choices, and this is cumulative, so you're seeing this information from our day. Over on the right, current month, you can expand down and you can customize what you want this to be. Let me see the last 7 days or last week, month, or a custom field range. So it's very easy to kind of see this general information in the home page for your statistics. Okay, from here, over on the left-hand side, I'm going to go to my live category, and I want to see the job information. Now, when we open this up and we see job, we see the jobs in general, and we can see them as a list of the preview, the job name, the quantity needed to print, the size of the job, the media, the customer, the order number, due date, and the station that this is going to. Okay, and then the printer designation. We've got our printers labeled as XYZ and so forth, so just generic names. When we look at this information for the customer name and the order and the due date, this information is our metadata. This is the static metadata that we could be typing in when we work with our jobs live. So back in the RIP queue, I'm going to switch over to my RIP. When I bring a file into the RIP queue, this is where You just go down here and grab something different. This is where over on the right-hand side, job ticketing data, I could enter in this information, right? So I could put in my order number, and maybe I have some other coding that references this as well. I could put in my company name. I could put in my customer name. And any custom fields here, maybe a phone number or whatever I want that to be, print due to. So over here, I can specify my number of copies to being 2. Enable a due date, and I could specify when that due date or time is. And any custom notes I put in here as well. This information in the job ticketing data is going to be generated in as metadata within my Hub reporting. So I'll be capturing this data within the job. I'll go ahead and I'll bring that in. When this information comes in to the RIP, just generally speaking, I could right-click at the top here in any of these columns, okay, across the top. I could right-click anywhere, and then I can activate these fields as well so I can see the information. Let's see. I've got my due date, custom fields, custom notes. And when I add all that in here, of course, I can, configure and see these, truncate the columns as I need to, and see the information as it comes in for my prints and so forth. Okay, so number of copies, prints due, my contact information. If I scroll over, I can see more information as well. And I can adjust these columns. If I right-click again back in that column tab, I can adjust these. At the bottom, you'll notice drag to rearrange order. So I can move these up or move these down as I need to. But this is the job ticketing information I can type in. And this information can also be added to a quick set as well. Now, if I go back into my view and I say live view, I see my jobs. Well, if I specify by station and I look at my station, now you'll see Leafy Zenstones is the image I just brought in into my RIP. It's populated back to the reporting tool here. Number quantity prints is 2, and you can see my metadata, if you will, across the back. So this information is going to be tracked within Hub. So when I look at my station view, and I can look at this arrow for more details, and it expands the menu, and it's going to give me this information. Now, I haven't done any printing, so I have no data yet to this information, but just to say this is something that I can view once I get this information out there. So I can even go and click on the Edit button, and I'm able to edit some specific fields within this as well. So now, if I go back to my station, I can see this as general data. If I go to my printer in my live view, I can see the information set up to go to my printer. Now this is for my Canon 8000, and if I go back into my RIP, you'll see this is what I'm looking at, my Canon 8000. I have these few jobs staged here and ready to go. So the information within here can also be filtered across the top. We can filter these different categories whether we're in our live job view, or whether we're looking at our station, or whether we're looking at our printer. Okay, and I can filter which files need attention, where are my attention filters, so warning messages, what's processing, what's actually ripping and processing at the moment, what's printing, what has any error messages, and what's completed or what's in a busy state. A busy state would be a job that's opened into Job Editor. Within the RIP queue, that gives me a status of busy because that job is engaged in Job Editor. So I can see a list of specific, by specific categories here through these filters. I also could see active and inactive jobs, or just what's active or what is inactive. Going back to my RIP queue, remember, across the top here, this is my jobs ready to print. This top section is active, and once I print something, it's going to go to the buffered queue down below, and that would be inactive. That's how we are referring to that active and inactive category. So again, we can see our live views based on our job information, general job data here, or I can go by my stations, individual stations that I'm working with, my RIP stations, or I can look at this based on my printers as well. Now, from my live view, if I go down to this button where it says Job Submit, I'm actually able to submit a job from here. So if I go into Browse and I select a specific image, I can now pick the printer that I want to go to. I could also select the QuickSet, and I made this canvas wrap with a mirror image bleed QuickSet. And then get media and page size from printer. What is loaded over on the printer currently? Otherwise, I can uncheck that box and be selective and specific to my media type. So again, I can put in information for rotation, quantity, put the job on hold. On the right is my job ticketing field. So again, very much the same information that I could type in and add when I'm in my RIP and saying open, I can do here within Hub for job submittal. So it's very similar along that way. And now if I just scroll down to the bottom and say submit, I'll be bringing that image stone into my RIP queue. And if I go into my RIP queue, you see the file is coming in and ripping. So one question came up about using Hub across another platform like an iPad or a tablet. And yes, you can. The information within Hub is dynamic, where we can see this information through the Hub interface software. We can reference this data on any of our browsers, on any of our devices. So this is kind of cross-platform, if you will. And let me hop back in here for a moment and go back up. So for sure, yep, you can access this information, you know, as you go through across your different computers, your tablets, your iPhones, whatever you're working with. It's all, you know, it's all these different browsing methods, right? We've got, you know, Apple and Android and all that stuff, and it's all good, right? So it's whatever you prefer, whatever you're working with, this information can be tracked, and you're able to access the Hub interface from this and see this real-time information across these different devices. So the reporting dashboards are available cross-platform. Okay, so besides our job submittal information, which we can reference here, if I go down to the next category, history. So now this is my historic data. I can go to job, and I can specify that I want to see information per specific job groups here. So I can see this information, reference this data, job basis. If I go to station, I can see this based on my stations that I'm going to, my actual RIP station. So I might have the station 1, 2, 3, different RIP components, different RIP installations on the PC stations. We just generically name these. And I can also see this based on my printers as well. So my historic information can also be tracked and seen in this sense. If I go from history to reports, now I go to usage. And here I can see, if I wanted to specify a certain printer, I can track this. I'm going to go to one of my populated data where I have a different printer station. Okay, so if I just look at station X, you know, station 1, printer X, I can see my prints completed, my ink, estimated ink usage, my media, total media print in square foot, my waste, and my costs. And again, this information is cumulative, and what I'm specifying, or what's defaulting here, is the last 7 days. Okay, so I can see this information based on that parameter. Okay, so we can see this data overall. If I scroll down, I can see based on the printer, my specific information. I did backlit material here, and I did a matte photo. And then I can see the jobs as well. And there's some specific information per the costing, per the jobs, and so forth that we can reference in here. Now this is just the usage as a report. This download would allow me to go through and download this report and have this as a tangible file that I can, you know, print out or share and so forth with the information of the information. If I go to order, this would be if I had any specific information for my ordering information, and this may not have been populated in the data, but this could be that metadata information that I want to see as part of my information as well. Okay? Job information. When I'm looking at my job data, again, this can be specific. Now, I might not have that as I'm referencing that one particular model, so I can just say maybe select all, apply that. Let's see, let me do a few different ones. I've got this. Okay, and I can be gaining that information. So for the reports, I am able to see some specific information in regards to that, and I can save off that data as well. Now, from reports, and doing this as a brand new install and configuring, we've got shop settings. So in shop settings, this is where I can enter in my information. Now I want to jump back into the PDFs here to talk about, in this case, this is just talking in general about the reports, talking about our home screen report data and how we can view it by different timelines, different amounts of dates, times, time period, time field. And then again, we can see the information here for usage. All right. So the PDF about reports is just kind of going through and showing you again, looking at the usage and so forth. This is going to show us our history information for the job, just to kind of go through and show you that. Within the PDF, this is going to give you that information as well. And then job-specific information. In the setup and costs, this document is going to talk about how we actually go through and start to configure in our shop settings. We're going to put in our cost factors, and we're going to put this in per stations, media, and for our ink. So we have our media square footage costs, and we have our ink for milliliter amounts. So this document talks about adding in that information. So I just want to make reference to that. Going back in the software shop settings station, so again, if I edit this information, I'm able to, configure my data. I'll edit one of these other previous stations here. This is our communication that we're communicating to the device. When you want to add a new station as your initial setup, we're setting this information in. Okay, if I go to printer for my shop settings, this is now where I edit and I add in my costs per milliliter for the ink and my machine costs and my labor costs, and I can put in what my values are. So this is where you would be entering in that information, per station. We're defaulting to, these numbers that are in here, but of course, you enter in your real information as you need to. So for the printer-specific information, we can put in our costs, per milliliter, what's our costs, and then the machine costs and labor. That's general, okay? You'll notice printer in general, ink, machine, labor, right? That's a static general thing per printer. If we go fine-tune down a little bit more, we can go into media. And within the media now, of course, this is a variable. Maybe certain medias are more expensive than others and so forth. Now I can put in my actual square foot cost per media. So media is the value that might be changing, right? Certain medias have certain costs. When we think about our shop settings and our printers, there's going to be, for this printer, there's going to be a certain ink set, and there's going to be a cost attributed to that, and that is the ink we're using on a regular basis. For this printer, there's going to be some type of machine cost or labor cost based on that printer. Okay, so again, this is all that, financial part of it that would be figured out from within the companies, but just to say this is more of a hard set rule of value, and it's going to be one setting. Here we put in our media data, we're going to be putting in per square foot per media. And now I might pay more or less for a certain material over another, so then I put in those value entries. We're just defaulting to $1 in here, but just to say that's the general information. So for shop settings, station, we're adding our devices and communicating. Once we're there, we're putting in our printer costs, and this is ink, machine, labor, and we're also putting in our actual media costs. Once we enter all that information in, now it's just a matter of ripping and printing within our stations and seeing the data as we're working through this and getting the costs. So per job information, if we're looking at this information, We can view the image information. We can see the status. This is just at a wait print status that's here. At any time, we can go in and see more details about the job. Let me go back into one of my other stations here. So let me minimize that guy and go into one of these. So this is some more metadata where we printed and populated some data. So as I have this information in here, this particular job, bonsai tree, this job required 4 print records. Prints completed were 7. So right there I know, hey, I only needed 4, I've got 7. So what gives, what happened, right? And this could be through some investigating, oh, we had a, fingerprints or some smudge or something that we had to do a reprint. What are the reasons? But again, as part of our tracking, we can figure out what's going on with this data. As we look down further, we can also see and track where this bonsai tree printed amongst these other images. So we've got a couple of different print records. Bonsai tree was in a nest of these other images, bed of tulips, cottage shops, onyx, china wall, so forth. Over here on the right, print record number 2, bonsai tree was part of a nest with this bed of tulips image. And again, as I scroll down, record 3, record 4. So I had 4 prints of this, and this is showing me the record with the nest, okay, for this information, and the quantity as well. So that quantity is going to add up so we can see this information. So again, as we're looking at this, we're able to see and track that particular job information and the information that kind of goes along with it. All right, so if I go back into my job information, and I'll scroll down back into my settings here. Let me go back in. Okay, so I'm going to look at this other device that's here. So at any time, we can expand and we can look upon, where this job nests with, where it is print for, and we can get that information. And again, the costings that you're seeing are going to be total costing information that's going to be overall for that one nested group, that one bit of information. On an individual job basis, we can see that information if we look at that data per unit. So let me go over here more details. Again, this is the average cost per print and total cost, but this information was also nested. So there could be some specifics and disciplines with how we go about planning our jobs when we go to nest our jobs and send our jobs. Maybe this is going to call upon reconsidering some of our nesting strategies. We've got these 4 different main nesting strategies. In the conserve media category is where in the options tab we can allow for set up best fit and allow rotates. So maybe this is something that we want to utilize to get the most out of our media and get less waste. So percentage full, I'm at 80% full here, so the information that's there. Okay, so as far as our information goes, working with Hub, you've got these different data points and reports that we can pull information based on a job basis, based on the system information. We can see our overall usages, pull information, generate reports. At any time we can go through and download and have this information, grab this. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at those chat messages that might have been coming up and see what questions you may have here. All right, so let me go through. Okay, I see this. Yes, this can be part of your iPad, tablets, and so forth. Absolutely, you can do that there. So the order number can't be required. The metadata can be entered in a quick set. So when selecting the quick set, the metadata would be applied to the job. And that's true. You don't necessarily need this information as the metadata when you're looking at this data. So if I'm looking at my information on a job basis, station basis, and I'm looking at this data, any meta information I put in here, order number, customer account name, and so forth, you don't necessarily have to put that in. But if it's something that's a tangible that's helpful for you when you want to put in that job ticket data, it will report back into Hub. So you'll see that information that's in there. So for a flatbed, the sheet size selected, yes, the information is going to be attributed for the media when you're putting in that information. So that's a very good question. In this case, I've got a flatbed here, and if I specify my certain footprint of size that I'm working with, my sheet size and so forth, as I'm working with this information and I'm tracking that data, for the media for the square footage, I'm still entering in that data. So if I'm working on a foam board or a poster board or some type of lucite material or what have you, that information I'd be putting in for my square foot data, and that data would be gathered as we're still getting an efficiency down here for our materials. So if I add in some jobs here, I'm just going to randomly grab a few different jobs and pull this information in. So I'll grab that and this and this, and I'll bring that in. So as this comes through for that particular material, this information is going to come up. So I've got a relatively large footprint of material and so many jobs in here. You can see I'm 23% full, but if I do add a few more jobs to this queue and I add this information in, that information is going to be adding to that data and eventually filling up my board. But that is going to be based on that square footage of information that's there that we enter into our software. So flatbed material, flatbed, flat size, or roll size material, this information will be grabbing that information based on the percentage full. And the cost that we put to that media is where that's going to come into as well. So one thing to be aware of is in some cases we are working with bidirectional communicating devices, right? I'm sending my information to the printer. The printer is reporting back some data. In the case of non-bidirectional printing devices, if I send this print queue and I say print now, and I send this information to a front-end controller computer of a printer, and the file is there, and that person calls that upon and gets the material set up and says to print now from that station, right? It's a different controller software. We plan where the files are going to print on the board. If, let's say, there was a fingerprint on the material and we had one of our prints in that area and we had to reprint that, there would be a standard operating procedure identified that we would say, okay, for the operator, if you printed that and there was a fingerprint and now back in the RIP you have to reprint hydrangeas again, for example, this image, what do? Well, you could make it a standard operating procedure in this case where we would have to drag that hydrangeas back up and print again to let the RIP software generate the data to report to Hub that there was a second print of hydrangeas. How many prints were required? 1. How many prints were made? 2. Yes, this could be something that we can go over to the front-end controller software and we could resubmit again, but the standard operating procedure would be in order for Hub to track this, we will do that through the ThriveRip software, okay? And then Hub will track that data that we've made our second print or our third print and so forth. So that is something that is going on. That's a kind of a natural occurrence because we are offloading our file to a front-end controller software, which is going to then feed to the printer. The person could just resend again, resend again, resend again. However, for Hub to track this information we would make it a standard operating procedure, and we would educate our people to say, well, okay, when you want to resend it again, the information is going to come back over to be tracked properly in Hub. We're going to let that information come back over for this data to go through. Okay. So let's see some of these other questions we have here. Let's see. Trying to go back to where I was. Right, so that's the question. How does this work for flatbeds that copies are printed at the machine rather through Onyx? Exactly. That's exactly my explanation, is that you would incorporate a standard procedure where if you need to make a reprint, instead of doing this through the controller software, the secondary computer that feeds the flatbed printer, you would go back into Onyx and do this. And again, this is the dynamic in the situations where those particular printers are not communicating back. If the controller, by sending the file again from the controller software computer that feeds to the printer, if that would generate information back, bidirectionally communicate back to our RIP, there'd be no problem with that. It would be tracked that we made a second print or a third print, and that information would be gathered in Hub. But because that information is not that bidirectional communication type, if it's not, then we'd have to set up a standard to say, okay, everybody, you're going to track this and go through this information to do this, specifically. So, question came up: is it possible to track media usage by linear feet as opposed to square feet? That is a good question. Let me take a look in the software, in my reporting. Let's see. Let me see here if we can do this. I might have to get back to you. There might be a setting in here that talks about default, because naturally this is global, right? We're not just talking about square feet as far as our measurement goes. There may be the condition to do that. Let's see if I set up my printer, and if I look at this costing, let's take a look. Milliliter, yep, you got it right here. Milliliter or square feet, that's our ink, of course. And then for your independent cost, that's just labor, that's just data sets for that. So, but yes, it looks like you can't select the unit for milliliters or square feet. Let me go back into here. This looks like it's just square feet for media. Let me get back to you on that. I'm going to have to do some research, and I'll send back an email to you guys as well. Let me make a note here. Yeah, square feet, linear feet. So it looks like we can enter in information when it comes to printer for specific material, media, like we're talking about. Hey, I've got this roll material is one thing, right? And then I've got this flat size information. So let me get back to you on that. I'll have to find out from product management and get an answer back to you guys on that. Let's see. Right, so what happens if the sheet is sent for more times, and then that's going back to that. If you're working with the flatbed and it's not doing that bidirectional data, then that's something that you're for sure going to have to go back and grab that information. They have a different process to do that with. All right, so it looks like some of your questions were answered as well. I appreciate that, little helper out there. And yes, when we export this information, we can export this as XML or CVS, comma separated value, and that information can go into Excel. And that's something that, of course, you can, in Excel, you can, you can do a lot of things in Excel, right? You can organize and structure your data accordingly for reporting and generating data within other systems within your company, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right. looks like that might be all the questions. So I thank you for your time. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my desktop here. And let's take a look if there's any other questions that popped in. Can we import data from MIS automatically? Let's see that. That I'll have to find out about, doing something automatic to generate that data. So let me make a note and I'll get back with an email on that too, to inquire about that. Import data. So let me do some little researching on some of these questions you have that I'm not too sure on with the answers, and I'll get back to you guys as well. If this is something that can be automatically gathered, I'm not too sure, so I got to find out how that structure would be set up to pull information. It's very well possible that it can be done. I'll get back and let you know. All right, everybody. Well, if you have any other questions, I'll be forwarding out some of this documentation or videos when we get that published. Everything's been out so far, so hopefully you guys have received those emails from our general Onyx that went out there, and then I've also gone through and did a little sending as well to get you guys that information. Keep in touch. If you have any questions going forward, let me know. I'll be happy to help out. I appreciate you guys attending these sessions. It's been great, good questions you guys have going through this, so it's been wonderful, and I'm hoping it's informative as well for you and you're getting a lot out of it. Stay tuned. We are going to be planning a few more sessions coming up, so keep an eye on the website. Keep in touch with me. Send me some emails. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have. And for those of you, depending on what time zone you're in, yep, it's Friday. Have a great weekend. Thank you.